Check it out. Hot rods, vans.
Said through the glass doors.
Okay. Says cool exhibits right inside the lobby. This is a special Cadillac section of the museum. It's kind of cool. They have this room set up and furniture, Cadillac lamps, things that you would have seen, I guess, back in the day. And they have some beautiful older Cadillacs, early editions on display, along with some memorabilia over here that I just think is neat. Again, this is one of the cool things about coming to the Hershey Auto Museum is a lot of the content they own, and what they don't own is on loan. This is such a cool thing. I love bringing my kids to this, introducing them to really cool stuff. And this is an example of what a workshop would have been like back in the day when they early days of building these cars. And I just think it's really cool that they have it set up the way they do. And the museum's really neat because they give you a layout, and it starts off with the earliest of cars, and you follow the footsteps, and it just takes you through the different eras of the vehicles. There's some Studebakers, 32 Studebaker, 20 Studebaker. There's a 30 DuPont. Yeah, it's just really cool, the displays they have set up. Show you an example of an engine back then that would have powered these vehicles, big inline drivetrains. And then they move you into the next era, so to speak, of vehicles. So the next, as they move you into the 30s, they show you a 36 Packard, beautiful color, beautiful car, 39 Rolls Royce, just, gorgeous as well. Just a beautiful example of vehicles that the rich would have driven back then. Around to 35 white. Here's a Cord. My kids, I want them to understand that, there's history. It's not just what you learn in school. Here we are into the 40s, right? And here they have a 41 Cadillac on display. Beautiful car. They would show you what like tires would be sitting at a service center would be like. And they talk about just the era. There's what it would look like if there was a car pulled up to the gas pumps. Just super cool, just really neat, and they give you some history, and it's just really nice to show the kids that, hey, this is what it looked like back in the 40s. This is what a service center would have been like. They give you an example of what it would have been like to walk in to one of those, and some of the tools that you would have found in use. Spark plugs, just really neat. The old air pumps that you used to get free air, Here we enter the 50s, and this is just really cool. They give you an idea of what it would have been like to go to the drive-in back then. Here's a 55 Flageolet. How cool is that? I've never seen one of these. And they give you an opportunity to see the interior. You want to zip up. It reminds me of a Corvette. So much like a Vet. Just a lot longer, stretched. Just really cool. But they give you an idea of what it would have been like back in the day. 54 Hudson. And wow, 59 Caddy. Look at the fins, aren't they iconic? How cool is that? So here you have the 60s. They kind of like mix the 60s and the 70s here together to show you what like a would have been like at a hotel along Route 66. They show you some beautiful cars here, of course, 383. They have an AMX. You don't see many of those these days. 64 Chevy and a 65 Corvair. And it gives you the whole backdrop of Route 66 and the hotel there. So that's kind of cool. So when you're walking through here, they keep you visually engaged, I guess you could say. And then they have some cars mixed in here as well. Perfect example of a 85 Ford Escort. I mean, that's probably, they made a ton of these, and yet you don't see any of them anymore. And you back up here, they have a traffic light on display. And then they have some other, here's a Cosworth twin cam Vega, 775 Chevy Caprice. And then they move up here to a pristine 8th generation Continental. And what's really cool is they give you they have a theme like this is what you would have seen driving across the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, say early 90s. This is actually my favorite part of the museum. This is the Tucker exhibition that they have, and I want to just memory of David Pierce, Shoemaker Kamek, and this is just these cars. To watch the movie and to read about how ahead of the time these cars were back in the day. Even his military vehicle that he had designed and was trying to win a contract for, just all that, how cool all that is. And they have a little display here where you can see how the headlight moves with the steering wheel. It's pretty cool. And they show how all that follows the steering wheel. And spin around here. They have a breakdown of the engines that the variations and how he got to where his final engine was. We'll go over that in a second. And the chassis, they show you what the car looked like. It's hard to believe that this is from back in 47. And, rear engine car from 47. Just some of the technology that he put in it. And we'll start here. My kids are worried they don't want to be on the video, but just prototype engine. This is a prototype, it says, as well. This is the automatic trans with the Tucker engine. So this would have been a production variation. There's a prototype again. Just pretty cool stuff. There's an example of transmission. They've got some cool, somehow or another, they got a hold of some photograph or film from when they were back in the day when they were making them. But I just think there's, it's pretty cool. There's somebody dedicated their life to preserving and gathering all this information together. And these cars are so rare, and if you haven't watched the movie, you're probably living on or under a rock somewhere. But the whole story about these cars is just incredible, and I recommend that you check that out. And but there's 4 full cars on display here, and along with, like I said, a bunch of memorabilia. I just think it's cool. And I'll show you the inside on this one because they have the door prop. This one was not finished. It was one of the cars that was started but not finished. And but yeah, there you have it. the how cool is that? The Tucker exhibition. I love it. It's a great part of the museum that I personally, it's probably one of my favorites. So if you come here, be sure to check it out. They even have what they say a Tucker sales office would have looked like back in the day in 48. And I even think this is really cool while you walk in, and they have what an office would have looked like with the desk and the paneling back in the day, and what the waiting room would have looked like with the small TV. How cool is that? So if you haven't seen the movie, this is the movie. And I just talked to one of the museum staff, and I learned a little bit more about this car. This car is actually a movie prop, and it's completely fake. He said the tail lights are actually made out of paper. How about that? That's crazy. And he said that this was in the movie. And the other comment he told me, which was really cool, is that this car was actually driven by Jeff Bridges in the movie, and that Jeff actually damaged it. You can see the dent there in filming. But the two cars in the center and the one on the platform are operational. The train section, they have a full working miniature train. How cool is this, Jake? Yeah? Of course, they have different manufacturers, American Flyer, Corgi, you know, Williams, just Lionel, Bachman, all the different brands from over the years are on display. I just think it's so cool, you know, before electronics that the kids have today. This was what my dad would have played with, and what I played with as a kid as well. 1910 brush. There's a 31 Ford. 1914 Ford. 17 Pierce Arrow. 31 Ford Model A Victoria. 54 International. 63 Chevy. You don't see these much anymore. 66 Ford T-Bird. Triumph. 67 Triumph. 77 Cadillac. This belonged to Betty Davis. How cool is that back in the day? '70 Challenger RT. Have the section set up like it would have been if you would have went to grab a bite to eat. 65 Mustang sitting there in front of the little diner. Back in the day, these little pop-up diners were everywhere. I still remember going to one of these with my grandfather and sitting around on a stool around a counter like this, placing your order, and literally they were cooking the food right here. And I just think it's a throwback to an era that I quite honestly miss. There's Dodge Brothers, 26 Dodge. Guess what started it all? There's the Model T, it's a Coca-Cola delivery truck. And then you have this motorcycle gallery we're gonna enter. And it's kind of cool because it's right here, they got all kinds of stuff. But when you enter here, they have just a really nice display of go-karts and different motorcycles, and this is really cool. They have a hubcap thing going on like a tree. It's really neat. This is just a really cool little section. They have they just have some really cool stuff. Some BMWs on display here right now, and then they have this cool little break room down in the basement. So it's just really neat. 29 Stearns Knight, 1912 Delaney Belleville, 20 Lafayette. They don't make chrome like that anymore. Then you have buses on display. That was made by GM. This was similar to, or maybe possibly used in the movie Speed. So you can kind of see how cool is that. And then they have a section with buses in it that I'll show you here in a moment. And then they have a 2010 stock car sitting here that belongs to Kevin Harvick, or belonged to Kevin Harvick. Now, the idea of this bus display is to kind of give you an idea of how over the years the buses have like improved or changed, you know, from what people would have ridden in. Like here's a 24 white, you know, so this is something people would have ridden in for transportation back in the day, you know, and then it goes through and they give you examples of things like how they have progressed over the years. You know, here's a 27 model. You can kind of see the differences from manufacturers. And this one here has glass windows and padded seats, and it's a different layout altogether. You can kind of see that now. You can see here by 46, we've gone to more of a modern style bus setup. And of course, the display here is really cool because they show you uniforms that the drivers would have worn back in the day. And you know, it's a really cool display. Just like I said, this is all in the basement of the museum. If you get a chance, you need to check it out. It's pretty cool.